We'll start here shortly. We're having some technical difficulties here.
Did you get everybody up or you're just on the top? Pictures. Yeah, like that. Okay, that's all I got.
Yeah.
Who is on the LG Stylo 4?
I don't know who's LG Silo for.
Ron Score.
Oh, Ron Score.
Okay.
Okay, being 6:30, I'll call the Dunn County Facilities meeting to order here today. We'll do a roll call. Shows that all members of the Facilities Committee are present. The next item will be the approval of minutes. Since we actually haven't had a meeting since February 25th, we also have to approve those minutes and the minutes of May 6th. Any questions on the minutes? Okay, why can't I hear him? Don, you're muted.
There. I'll move for approval.
I can't hear him.
John moved for approval.
Why can't I hear?
I'm okay now. Can anybody else hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, but I can't hear nobody else.
Oh,
You turn your volume, have him turn his volume up, John?
Turn your volume on, Chuck.
Do what?
Turn your volume up.
It is.
Computer.
It's at 69.
Krista, he's got a microphone on his table.
I
Push that button on your lead to your headphones.
Push the button on the lead to your headphone.
I did.
Okay. I can hear you.
I heard you.
yeah, we can
I
hear
can't
you.
hear nobody in the field.
Oh,
We can hear you, so.
She's just a second.
do you have power to that, Chuck?
How do I know?
is there a red light lit up
You're plugged in. I think that's what this is right here.
on his headset?
Right here, is there a red light? Is it red?
Mm-mm.
No.
Then it's not plugged into the computer.
Oh, I see it, John. See?
Let me try this.
Yeah, that's got it. No, it's the headset. Where's the cord?
You got power to that now?
Now I do.
Okay. No, he should be good.
What's in here?
Microphone.
Okay.
Can
you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear people now. Okay.
Good, okay.
Oh, sorry about that. So anyway, Don, you made a motion to approve the minutes. Is that correct?
Yes,
Is there a second to that motion?
All second.
Okay, Tim, you seconded it. Any discussion on either the 25th or the May 6th minutes that were sent out? If not, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion's carried. Okay, the next item on the agenda, items placed at to require the request of the chair, is the 2020 Red Cedar Racing status. So on May 19th, there was we held an informational meeting with some of us at the facilities group, Scott and John, Nick Lang, myself, Paul Miller, the Red Cedar Racing Association president and vice president was there. Well, we did it via Zoom, but anyway, we had a discussion and it was the consensus to put the racing on hold until June 15th, at which time we'll reconvene and assess the situation depending on how things are going. And the reason I had this on as an item here tonight, I want to make sure that there is a paper trail through this whole process, and it's something that should, in my opinion, come before the Facilities Committee and be in our notes as a proper item that we'll be discussing. So I guess for now, I guess we need to just have a consensus as to you're in agreement or what questions you may have about it. It isn't really a motion. Well, we don't have it as a motion item, but I guess I just want your input and see what you think or have to say or any questions.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I guess I was wondering if, since we closed down the fair, and one of the reasons was that we were afraid of crowds in the grandstand, are we doing something different here now? It seems like we're not following that type of logic that, I think, I looked over here, their recommendations, and they said they'd start out at 50% capacity. Well, that really wouldn't mean they were doing social distancing, because that means you're taking, if ideally you're taking one person out from every other person, so you're only 2 feet apart, basically. So I'm a little concerned that we're, I hope we don't go too fast on this, because our county has a pretty good record right now, and I'd hate to see a bunch of people get together at a race and spread the virus very easily there.
Yes, the on the proposals that you were all have been made aware of, that's why we, after discussion, we put it on hold until the 15th, just to see what, because exactly for what you said here as far as the amount of people, et cetera. So it was agreed upon to take a step back and see what else we could come up with. There are a lot of other racing tracks that are opening up this weekend, well, last weekend and this weekend. I have been in touch with Douglas County up in Superior and over at Outagamie County and Shawano County, because they all have race tracks on their county fairgrounds, our county property. And so far I have not received anything back. I did have a phone call back from Outagamie County, and they were going to look into it and send me some more information. The other counties have not responded back, because I want to gather information as to what other counties are doing as far as how did they determine it was safe to open up. And if they did, what sort of guidelines or requirements were they recommending or basically insisting on that the Racing Association would do at their locations. So hopefully by the time, well, tomorrow I'll be making some more phone calls if I don't get some emails back. But so I'm reaching out to try to find out what other counties have done. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Just a curiosity question. How would they actually do the 50% of the grandstand? Would they like rope off every other row? Not allow people to sit in, that can't sit in the seat behind them or in the row behind them or the row in front of them?
Well, Mark, do you want to answer that?
Yes. First off, if you read the document closely, it's 50% of capacity. So once that capacity number is determined and given to us, that would be the amount of tickets that would be available. So for example, let's say that the grandstands held 10 people. We would only be able to sell 5 tickets, okay? As far as the social distancing within the facility itself, we are waiting for someone to tell us what they would want us to do. Otherwise, we would do exactly what you were just talking about. I think it was Tim that was talking, as far as sectioning off, marking our bleachers, putting 6 foot distant marks down on the ground leading into the facility with ticketing, 6 foot marker spots put on the ground for concession sales, restroom use, all the entities that promote people gathering in a small spot. Okay. I don't know how much you want me to talk, Chuck, but if you want me to give a synopsis of what I saw at Douglas County Speedway, or Douglas County at Gondik Law Speedway in Superior, you tell me what you want me to bring up here.
Yeah, if you would, because I think that, Tim brought up a good question here. And so, yes, please continue.
Okay. So as Mr. Maves mentioned, we had a meeting on May 19th. And at that time, the two groups involved discussed gathering information between now and June 15th. Okay. So I went to Douglas County, which is located in northwest Wisconsin, and Superior is there. Gondik Law Speedway hosted a 2-day, 2-day race on Thursday and Friday of last week, leading up to Memorial Day weekend. So I went to see how this was going to work at a public owned facility. Okay. So I have about 40 some pictures, and pictures that show how they worked on, or what they had to do to promote social distancing. As far as the grandstand goes, there were no markings in the grandstand, but rather signage everywhere that was asking people to move 6 feet apart, and announcements made throughout the race event that they got from the CDC, which we have now gotten our hands on. We have the exact same announcements because our announcer happened to be there, so he got us a copy of it that we would use at our facility. That again, really promoted the recommendations and the suggestions is exactly what social distancing is about. It's not a law; it's a suggestion and a recommendation. But we would definitely go into our grandstands again with guidance from you folks or other entities within the governing body that own our lease, and mark off our grandstands and make those things happen. They did ticketing areas were marked by 6 feet, X's on the ground, and they had a person there that was taking temperatures for anyone that was going into the grandstand area. So before you bought your ticket, your temperature was taken, and then you were allowed to either buy a ticket or get turned away. And I did some follow-up, and they had 0 people that they had to turn away due to someone having a fever of any kind. So I moved throughout the whole facility throughout the whole night so I could observe. I know that the Duluth TV stations were both there filming, so I'm sure there's public record of it someplace, through them as far as what they saw. As far as activities in the pit area or the participant area, if that's what you want to call it, there was suggested that they stay 6 feet apart. Cars are parked 6 feet apart, which most pit stalls are 6 feet apart anyway. And they just suggested that there wasn't any social interacting going on between people, and what I observed was that people are, with the number of days that we've gone through this now, are pretty pretty responsible for their own actions, and I thought, did a good job of using social distancing and being careful when they were around other people. So they also had hand sanitizer stations on the grandstand side and on the pit side. All ticketing areas had plexiglass installed that was hanging from a chain so that you could, stop the spread through that type of contact. And it was encouraged that ticketing be handled prior to arriving to the track. So in our association, we have what's called My Race Pass, okay? And My Race Pass does the scoring for our sanctioning body, and it is also a place where our fans and people can go and buy tickets. So that is something that we would also promote, that ticketing be done in the privacy of your own home, just to try to limit the amount of contact that would happen at a ticketing window. I've been to our facility, be willing to go down there with anyone on this call and visit with you and talk about things that we can do. We already know that we can shut our middle window of our concession stand, and that would be about a 12.5-foot distance between the two windows, markings on the ground. We can do the same thing with our ticket booth. We can sell out of either side of it so that, we promote social distancing that way. And we're wide open to going into grandstands and marking off areas. There'll be groups of people, just like there was in Superior. I thought the fans did a wonderful, wonderful job of being respectful to their neighbors that were sitting in the stands with them. You could easily tell the group of 7 or 5 or 4 that came together, they were together, and then there was distance between them and the next group. And those are some of the things that I saw. And if you look at our list is growing as we're gathering more information. We have a local track in Chippewa County. One of the requirements that they had in order to be open was that they had to have all participants and fans sign a COVID-19 waiver. Again, that's something that we could do. They weren't required to do the temperature taking, but our group has already discussed the possibility of that, and obviously very willing to do that if that's what's mandated or encouraged by the people that we that are going to govern whether we race or don't race. So I'll stop there, Chuck, and if there's more specific type questions, I can answer them.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Is there any other specific questions that anybody has? Yes, Mike.
I have a statement I'd like to make first off. I guess we've been directed by the county board that the county board follows the direction of the state government. This has been addressed on many occasions when the county board has questioned some of the mandates through the state that we necessarily don't want to follow. The Supreme Court ruled the governor did not have the authority to mandate the shutdown of the state, but rather the Assembly and the Senate must do this. They have not chosen to legislate regarding this. The opinion that the counties have the right to carry on these policies that the Wisconsin Supreme Court overturned is even more questionable, but only currently allowed because the court didn't address the counties having the authority in the ruling. We all care about health, safety of our community, our family and friends, as well as our coworkers and neighbors, and especially the elderly and the compromised. We're not choosing between safety and economic livelihood. We're trying to balance it. The goal was to flatten the curve. And we have done this. Now we have to choose how we move forward. I'm going to choose our citizens, not our government, to take the lead on this. It is inevitable that there will be some failures with this, but having complete government control of everything will also have failures. This is why I'm going to default to our citizens and our individual freedoms. That's, I guess, my statement on where I stand moving forward. Now, we have an emergency declaration that the county board adopted in March, where we pretty much give the county manager the authority to make most of the decisions, and we don't vote on it. And they have extended the safety order to June 1st for Dunn County. That safety order does not advise. It is, as his words, let me read what he said. Order what it says and what it does not say. Most of the content is advisory. And it goes on as he's explained before. So our county does not have a declaration to prevent people from going out and opening up. But yet now we're gonna tell people what they can and can't do. And we're kind of cherry picking what we want to choose and who we want to allow. On an additional note, on the board when we met about the fair, the motion that we voted on was completely different than what wound up at the county board, where it says there will be no food court, no food, no guests allowed in. That's not what we voted on at the committee meeting in regards to the fair. So I guess I'm kind of disappointed in the direction we're going. We don't really have a direction. So my personal opinion is that we need to allow the citizens to make some of these choices and trust that they will make good choices as well, instead of trying to mandate everything. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Any other questions or comments?
Just a couple other questions, two that came to mind, probably more directed to Mark Thomas. First one, and I know I've been to races, I enjoy the races, but after the races, a number of people from the grandstands flow over into the pit area. And we did talk a lot, and then Mark talked a lot about social distancing at the concessions, at the ticket windows. I mean, we can do things, markings in the grandstands. I think people will be very respectful of the social distancing there. But when the race is over and people go over into the pits, what do we do in the pits?
Great question. Have not, to be flat honest with you, been spending all our energy on figuring out the front side and the come together part, and haven't really thought about the dispersed part. But we could certainly sit down and work on that and get that information to Chuck that he could get sent out to you and shared on how we can do that. We have some options. Number one, we can say the pits are completely closed after the races, and we have sheriff department folks on the facility as part of our contract, and we can have them stand at the gate that would be where people would come in. There is a way to get across the racetrack from the grandstands, but that gate can easily be locked so that people cannot access it, so that they would have to go through the pit entrance gate only. So we could, put manpower out there, people power out there, and, stop that from happening. Excuse me. But, so if that's what is mandated or suggested and whatever, we could do that. But, go back a little bit to what was said before. And I just want to make this statement that, the racetrack is not something that people have to go to, but can rather choose to go to. So those that are in a mindset or feeling that I don't want to be in public and stuff, they can choose not to be a part of that. So so that would be the other way that we could handle the pit area if that was agreed upon between the groups. So but we'll look into that more. I didn't stay in Superior until till that situation arose, because as soon as the racing was done and I left the facility, so people were coming out of the grandstands and I was in traffic. So I don't know how many people wandered over to the pits, or we could make it an immediate family only type thing where we come up with some type of a marker, a ticket that we could give them when they go in the grandstands, that would be a pit entrance ticket at the conclusion of the night. So, like my wife never comes in to the pit area with me, but likes to come over after the races. So she would be afforded the ability to do that. So,
and we also have family members that ride with the car that get dropped off at the grandstands before they go to the pits with their car. So there would be,
so we could
like
work
a return travel thing. Yeah, we would be happy to work with the board with that. For
Yep.
Sure.
And we could work on, how we'd identify those people to allow them access into the pit area following the races, but not the general public, if that's what the wishes would be of the group.
Okay, any other questions? Ron, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, these people that are racing, they come from other parts of the country. Would that be a problem for they bringing what are with them and stuff?
You asking me?
Yes.
Well, that's obviously, part of the process that we're going to have to get through as a society. I don't know if I haven't seen any data personally that says a person specifically got the virus from this or that or wherever they were. That's the tough thing, that's hard to track.
Yeah.
Communicating with people after they've been in a situation where it has been is something that we are getting better and better at, and it is a priority. But for me to sit here and guarantee to you, Ron, that if somebody comes from Bloomer down here or Superior or anywhere like that they're not bringing it with them, I guess I can't guarantee that. That probably the biggest thing we could do to deal with that would be that we would take temperatures at both entrances to the facility. And that seems to be one of the more popular things that not just the racing community but public, anywhere where people are going in public seems to be the popular thing to do. That if someone has a current fever, they're not allowed in or whatever. So,
and if I could just say something too, Ron, the thing that we're noticing too when we're trying to do our homework on, like Coach has been watching Superior, and I've been watching Fountain City and Jim Falls over in Chippewa, and some of the other tracks, is we are seeing through our homework and through our social media that our local Dunn County and Menominee race car drivers and fans are actually traveling to these other tracks. So they're actually going out of county to take in another venue because we're not open. You know what I mean? So there's other issues too, I guess, with us actually not being open. So it's all a gray area that we're trying to figure out, I guess, as a whole.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we had more testing, where you can test people and we know for sure. That's a
Yeah,
different thing.
yeah, and I agree, and I think everybody agrees that if there was a better testing mechanism out there, that would be wonderful. But unfortunately, we don't have it, and it seems that the temperature is the state of the art at this time as far as for that. Any other questions?
No, I guess I don't have questions, but I guess I'm not sure what we're to do today in regards to this. I mean, I'd like to see something in regards to all of our discussions. I would like to see something written up about taking temperatures at the ticket counter, taking temperatures at the racers as they arrive to the track, not allowing people in that are running temperatures. I would also like to see something written up in regards to the markings, as Mark mentioned, the markings that we would do in the grandstand, every other row, and then mark 6 feet spaces so that people have more of an idea of what 6 feet spaces are. Obviously, if they're a family or a group that stay together quite often, as Mark mentioned, there's groups of 7 or something that were together, but they're probably know each other very well in regards to that. So I'd like to see that written up, and I would entertain the thought of opening the speedway up if we had the right write-up done.
That's the kind of thing that we appreciate, the feedback from you guys when we threw out those options. That's exactly what we were looking for, was help from you guys to kind of make both sides feel more comfortable about what we're trying to do here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that will. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
So,
Would they need to put face coverings? Go ahead. Whoever's talking, go ahead.
I can wait.
Okay, Ron.
So my question is, my question is, who's making the decision, and are we going to be voting on this, or is it being made by somebody else, or where's this decision being made as far as whether they're going to open up or not open up, and who's making that decision?
It is my intention that at the meeting on the 15th, we'll actually have a meeting, a full, just like we're having here tonight, and everybody, by everybody being us and Mark, can put together the documents that he wants to present, kind of like what he did on the first 4 options. But then he'll be able to come back again and answer to like what Tim was asking. Okay, how would you do this? How would you do that? Mark would have a plan laid out as to how they're going to address this, how they're going to address the pit area, how they would have their plan, and then at that time we would actually have we would either say yay, we be in the facilities committee would be saying we either approve of his plan or we approve of his plan with this recommendation or that recommendation, whatever. So it'd be us that would review what documents are presented that night, make a decision. They either stand as presented or with exceptions or modifications or whatever. So that is my intention.
And who made the decision to postpone it to the 15th of June?
That was a consensus of the meeting that we had with, actually Mark came up with that idea to postpone it till the 15th. And there was a consensus of the group at that meeting at that time.
I guess I'm confused on what group and who put together this group, what group. I guess I'm just looking for who's responsible for making this choice and who's the authority that made this choice.
At the meeting
who's
was,
dictating policy?
What's that? I'm
Who's
sorry.
dictating policy?
At the meeting was Scott, Paul Miller, John Zworski, Nick Lang, myself, the Red Cedar Racing president and vice president.
And that's the group that created the policy that we're moving forward with until June 15th, and they have that authority?
No, it was a consensus of that group to postpone the start of the racing until we'll have that meeting on the 15th, and then we'll go from there.
It was,
Thank you. It's
It
not
was,
quite what I'm getting at, but
it was, can I speak or is my out of order to speak?
No, go ahead, Mark.
Okay, so the meeting, I had reached out to Mr. Maves about preparing a document to help the reopening process be looked at. And so, you know, with that time was the May 26th date. So we hadn't really done anything up to that point as far as, you know, asking about when we get to start racing. And our group was starting to become a little unsettling because we have preparation to do before we can race. You know, we have ground to prepare and everything. So, and with the park closed, you know, we were trying to stay out of there. We did go in groups of 1 or 2 very briefly to do little odd jobs that we had to get done, and we appreciated the ability to do that. But you know, we felt it was time to start opening up dialogue about the possibility of reopening, what that was going to look like. So I talked to Chuck and I asked if we prepared a document with different proposals that would be inclusive of some of the you know, recommendations for being in a safe environment, you know, with the mindset and the hope that once that was viewed and looked at, that, you know, the group, your group or whoever, wherever this went, would come back to us and say, we need to be more strict here. We need to look at this. This doesn't matter to us, whatever the consensus was of whoever we were going to be dealing with. And I went to Chuck first because since I've been the president, this has been our group that we've, you know, put a lot of time in with, you know, as far as preparing, you know, documentation throughout the last year with the new contract and that type of thing. So that's why I reached out to Chuck. And, you know, we appreciate the relationship that we've been able to build with this group. So I think there's a mutual trust because we've been around each other and listened to each other's concerns and you know, come to common ground on how we can coexist. So when we were called into the meeting, I wasn't really sure what was, you know, I thought more it was going to be, you know, questions for me, kind of like tonight is, you know, how are you going to do this? What does this mean? You know, in preparation for the meeting that was on May 20th, which was a county board meeting. And our meeting started out with Katie Gallagher speaking and talking about, you know, where all the numbers were and what guidelines were, the Badger bounce back and that. And then Mr. Miller spoke, and at that time was pretty much their votes were that our 2020 season would be canceled. We asked that we have an opportunity to speak because we have sanctioning and our a lot at stake, you know, that we needed to get answered because that's the first we had heard that, you know, it was a real potential that we could be shut down for the 2020 season. So we needed to contact our sanctioning body to find out what that meant for the future of our track, because we have a track 40 miles from us here that wants our night. And if we lose our Friday night, you know, that would mean that we'd be coming back to you saying, well, we want to race on Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night. We don't want to do that. You don't want that to happen. No, nobody wants to go through that for all the different reasons that we're all well aware of. So, you know, so that's kind of where I asked if we could, you know, table it and give it 3.5 weeks to see what new numbers would look like in our county as everything was beginning to reopen, and give us a chance to watch some of the tracks that were either opening up that coming weekend of the meeting or going to open up this weekend, like Rice Lake Speedway is opening up this weekend. And so I'm going, Ashland Speedway, I'm going to Rice Lake Saturday night to look at their operations. And you know, so that's kind of where it kind of all went and how it all got to the point of June 15th. As far as who's in charge on June 15th, I guess I don't know that, and I think Chuck just mentioned what that process would be. So that's how we got to the June 15th date from our side.
Okay, any other questions?
Well, I
Comments?
guess I do have
Yeah.
one, and I've looked over all your proposals that you put together, Mark, and I know you spent a lot of time working on that. I'm more in line looking at proposal 4 that you have there. I don't know if you have that in front of you, but it has 50% capacity from June 5th to July 4th. And then from July 5th to the 18th, which is 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks, to go to 75. And then after that, go to 100.
Yeah.
I guess my thoughts were, you know, based off of this, if successful in the first month, I think we could go to 75% capacity, but I'd like to see that spread out probably at least another week, maybe 2. And then go to 100% capacity, but I would still like all the markings for 6-foot social distancing to be in place.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Once we do we will do that with, granted we get permission from Scott and John and stuff with the facility, we would paint those right on the ground. That's what Superior used a spray can, yellow spray can, made X's on the ground. So.
But I guess I'd like to see yellow tape or something like that put up for 6-foot distances in the grandstands also.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, yeah.
And at this point too, we still have intentions of getting our railings started, installing our railings in the grandstands and all of that stuff yet with upgrades.
Yeah, we have the material in hand. So with the fair and everything, and where we're at, we just had to kind of stop. We had to stop some of that action at this time because of financial reasons and, you know, that kind of thing. So.
But on the other side of that, the one thing that I wanted to point out too is that you have practice starting on the practice night on the 29th. And obviously that's this week, Friday. I don't know.
Oh no, see, as part of the agreement is that we aren't going to do anything there until June 15th. So we're not going to practice. We're not going to practice Friday night unless somebody would walk in and say, here's what you guys can start on June 5th. But, you know, as of right now, you know, it is that nothing will happen at the Speedway until June 15th. Now, we did ask if we could have practice nights, and we're told that, you know, they would get back to us on that. We have not heard on that, but so as of right now, we have no plans to do anything at the Speedway as far as racing or practicing until we are told differently. So what was on the proposals was from the date of May 18th/19th. I did the proposals and I turned it in on May 18th. It was looked at on the 19th, and this meeting happened on the 19th. So, you know, had that meeting said, okay, you can do this proposal starting now, that would have gave us the prep time to be able to have a practice night or start racing, with which couple proposals had it that way. So, and we're going to relook at our proposals as part of our, you know, because our goal is to be in good faith here. You know, I mean, like I said, we built a relationship, and we can adjust proposals, and we are already looking at them. We are already going to add things to them, you know, like you've talked about tonight, you know, and anything that, you know, is going to be part of what, you know, the opportunity is for us to open. So if you come back and say, the only way you're going to open is at all this stuff's done on the ground and the plexiglass is up and blah, 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 and you have to take temperatures as people enter the facility, then that's what we'll do.
Okay, thanks, Mark. I guess I'm
Yep.
I'm kind of asking and making suggestions for the other supervisors that are on here, because to be honest, the practice racing with nobody in the grandstands, I don't see why that can't happen. To be honest with you, I don't know what other people's thoughts are.
So should we explain why we want to do that?
Do you guys want to know why we put that down as an option, like what that would mean for us?
Yes, please explain that, Mark.
Okay. So on the proposal, it is that the grandstands would stay locked, the concession stands would stay locked. So if you entered the park and anywhere on the south or the southeast or the southwest side, it probably would look like nobody was there. And, you know, hearing the cars would be a factor. But so we would have the pit gate open. We would park cars in at least every other stall, if not further than that. And every other stall would be well past the 10-foot, 12-foot range. We would not have any concessions open in the pit area either. It's just simply a place that the guys can come and get on the track with their cars. They can try different things to their cars that they won't normally do on a race night, because there's more at stake on a race night. For example, I'm actually in my little detached garage where my car is, and I'm looking at my left front of my car, and I'm looking at the spring in there, wondering if I should change that spring rate to start the season, or if it's something I want to mess around with during the season. So that would give me a chance to go to the track, start with the current spring, go out there and run a few laps, come in, make the change I want to make, raise that spring rate or lessen it, go back out there and see if I pick up speed on the track, if the car handles better, all those kinds of things. It's a great place for young drivers, which we have many this year, to get out and get more lap time and seat time, where they're not in a position where it's costing them big money and taking the risk of you know, doing damage to their car because they're more by themselves on the track. And so it's a very common practice. It's gaining huge popularity in our sport. Cedar Lake does it all the time. Rice Lake has a practice scheduled for tomorrow night. They call it a practice night. Anybody can go. We monitor how many cars are on the track at a time, how long they're out there. They're usually 5 and 6 lap sessions, and then you leave the track and go change your car, or just get back in line to go back out there again and get more practice, whatever the reason is that you're there for. So, and it's revenue, you know, for us, you know, because, you know, we have to carry all of our insurances to do that. And, you know, we wouldn't have to have all of our employees there, but we would have, you know, our ambulance service would be there, our wrecker crew would be there. So if we have a car stalled, we can get them off the track, our flag man and our major board members, you know. So it's a chance to generate a little revenue. There's all different ways people do it. We would either charge $75 per car, and you can bring, you know, 9 or less people with you at that cost, and you got your pit area over here, and stay in your area, and we'll have a viewing area for people in the pits to be able to watch, so they can talk to their drivers about what they're seeing. And, you know, yeah, so that's what a practice is about. And it's a chance for us to generate just a little bit of revenue to, you know, try to finish some projects that we want to. And especially in this time where we've lost 6 or 7 scheduled races already, and this weekend I think is number 7. So just a chance to recoup a little bit of money, I guess. And we had asked last Tuesday night on the 19th for the chance to do that, possibly up before June 15th. So we're not sure how, we're not real sure now how practice nights will go on a Friday night now that basically all the other tracks are racing. You know, we're not sure how many guys would come anyway just to practice. I think we'd get a few because there's a few that aren't ready to, you know, for different reasons, young drivers, whatever, they're not ready to be in the mix right now. They want to get more practice time. So we might get a few. And that time frame would be from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So the last cars would be flagged red at 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. and stuff. So.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Is there an ordinance or a
Question.
Just a second, Mike. Dave, you have a question or a comment?
Well, Mike mentioned, you know, who has the authority over this. And I guess I'm not sure. I've been looking for the resolution that we did at county board, giving the county manager and health director the authority for this. I haven't found it, but it looks like Mike might have a copy of it. He's probably been studying it. But my thinking is, you're talking about having a meeting on the 15th. And if this can come to county board and be a county board action, overriding anybody else's authority, I guess. I'm wondering if that meeting shouldn't be a week ahead so it could come to executive and then county board. I don't know if it could go straight from your committee to county board. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes, I am.
I mean, you know, the agreement not to do anything until the 15th wouldn't change. It's just that if you're going to have a meeting, that if you had it before exec, that would be the normal operation or flow of something going to county board. It would go to your committee. We could have it on the exec agenda in case you did pass something, and then it would go to exec and then on to county board. I would think even if we gave the authority back a few months ago to Mr. Miller and our health director on something like this, the county board may be able to, you know, still have the ultimate say in it. If that's what I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just mentioning that if that's what your committee would like to do, that's something to consider, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's good input. And Mark, would you be in agreement to move it up to the 8th instead of the 15th?
Yes, sir. Yep. Yep.
Okay. Is there anybody else here that would be opposed to moving it up to the 8th from the 15th?
There's a CRT meeting that night. I don't know if it would interfere, but I'm just throwing that out there. You might want to look at your times, stagger them or whatever. Whatever, okay. I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay.
8th is a Monday.
That's a Monday, yes.
Yeah.
So even if it was
the 9th, that evening, there's no meetings either, and that's still before executive.
We could do the 9th too, Chuck, if you just want to not go through the hassle
Yeah,
You know.
I think that would be a better choice. That way we don't have to worry about running into conflict with the CRT.
Yep, that
Yeah,
works for us.
it's tough enough holding these meetings. We don't want to hold two on the same night.
Yes. Oh, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, having that been said, then we will. Well, I guess usually at the end of the meetings when they schedule the next meeting date, but we can do that right now, actually, with your permission, if that's okay with everybody, that we will schedule our next meeting for Tuesday, June 9th at 6:30. Is that okay with everybody? Do I hear any
Yep.
disapproval? Okay, okay, let me get it written down here so I don't forget. Facilities, 6:30. Okay, that will be our next meeting then, to discuss this as far as the racing season. And Mark, if you want to put together, you gather your facts, and like I say, I'm going to be in contact with these other counties that have racetracks, and we'll get together and see what we're going to do.
Do you have a specific date in mind where you would like that information in your hands so that you can distribute it to this group and they can?
Would it be possible to have it by the 8th so they can review it before the meeting?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I can have it to you on June 8th by, like 1 o'clock in the afternoon or something. So
that would be good. And that way we can get it distributed out to all the members so they'd have time to study it prior to the meeting.
Perfect. Yep, perfect.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
Could I interrupt just 1 minute?
Sure.
Mike, you have that resolution, and if you do, what date is it?
It was March 18th, and it was report and resolution number 17, or 18, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is staff and recreation reports, the fair and fair board. Deb, you got anything to report?
It's been a little busy. I do have some things to report. I did send you just a kind of a written communication, but it didn't go out till a while before the meeting. So you probably haven't seen that piece of it.
No.
But what we've been working on, I guess, is well, in the last 2 months, of course, is first we figured out what the fair could look like based on the pandemic and what orders and stuff would be there. And of course, we know where that came from. We're continuing to participate in the weekly Zoom calls with the fairs across the state of Wisconsin. Just a tidbit of information, as of this morning, there's 13 state-aided fairs that have canceled in Wisconsin. But I do know that there are 6 or 7 more fairs that will be canceled. We'll be announcing on June 1st that they're canceled. They're just doing they're doing their due diligence and contacting some of their vendors to give them the news first before it goes public. I drafted and distributed a press release announcing the cancellation and modification of the fair, and then did some follow-up interviews with the media, and you've probably saw some of those in the papers. Now we're working on creating checklists of to-do items and how we're going to move forward to keep everybody safe if we do have some in-person judging, and how we're going to make that work. We've contacted all of our grandstand vendors, our entertainers for the free stage, to inform them of the cancellation, and then confirm that we did cancel afterwards. And then we're trying to roll all those contracts over to 2021 that we did have, and so far we're having a real good success with that. Everybody's pretty much accepting that that's what's happening right now. We've contacted all of our other vendors, nonprofit groups, volunteer groups, to provide an update on what if any help will be needed by those groups. For example, the Knights of Columbus, obviously we don't need gate crews, so that won't be happening this year. But we might need some people to help with some of the cleaning and so forth, so there might be a different avenue for them. We've been contacting sponsors to let them know that, well, we did contact a bunch of those. We did lose some major sponsors, including Mayo Clinic with all of our hand washing stations. They have pulled those from all events this year due to their income stream, and they have employees that are furloughed. So now we have to pick up that or figure out what we're going to do for hand washing stations if we do have some to do. We're also trying to figure out, and I sent an email to finance, but I haven't heard back how we're going to refund the money to the people that have paid for contracts for food and commercial space, and how they want us to do that piece of it. We had told everybody that we would start refunding or put information out there on June 8th on when to expect their refunds. And we've prepared and submitted a request for a change in procedure from our judging to DADCAP that has to be approved to continue getting state aid. So we've submitted that and waiting for an approval on that piece of it. Also, process of contacting all of our judges, because we need to know if they're willing to come or willing to judge virtually, whichever way we end up doing that. A lot of judges are retired. We did hear from a few that they're not willing to come in person. They might be willing to do some virtual judging, but some of them do not have very good broadband or internet connections, so that might not work. We're answering many emails and phone calls, and we are creating a virtual fair that showcases the educational portion of that. It's ready to go. I just put a snapshot and sent it to you of the landing page, and I don't know if it's possible. I can certainly share. I don't know if I can share my screen. Krista might know, and then I can just show you what that looks like if you're interested. If you're not interested, that's fine. We can wait till it goes live and you can all look at it. So lots of things going on yet right now as we're trying to move forward.
Okay, Krista, can you share her screen?
Yep, she should have the ability to share.
Okay.
Let me just
All
double
right.
check.
Let me pull that up. All right. Let's see. Did it work at all, or? Oh, I gotta hit share. Ah. Okay. So, and then you got my notes here, my checklist instead. Hang on. Krista, do I have to pull that over to my other screen?
Just go back down to your Zoom icon at the bottom of your, yep. Click your Zoom and then stop sharing, and then reshare and share exactly the one you want.
All right. Oh goodness, I can't even, whoops. All right, there we go. All right, I'm gonna pull this over here. Second. Can you see it now?
It is still starting to share. It's just showing the virtual fair. Is that what you wanted to show, the virtual fair website? Yep, you're there.
Yes. Okay. So this is the virtual fair. Sam actually did this. We saw it. Clay County, Florida Fair was canceled this spring, and so they had created a virtual fair, and we ran across it by accident. This is interactive. We've got almost all of the photos in the fair in this in the virtual fair are from our fair, so people can take a memory back to last year. This is the landing page, and we have a little bit of history here, and then it takes you where you can go visit the dairy barn and see what happens in the dairy barn. And you'll see there's information in there regarding to take a virtual walkthrough, and it looks like it's a barn, and you'll see photos. And then she's got interesting cow facts that scroll through, so that takes care of our educational piece of it, down to like cow terms, the different breeds, and then there's some interactive sheets that can be printed out and used as a family if you choose to do that. And then we go through to the beef barn. Moves through, hang on one second, it's loading here. Just have to be patient. So, you know, the same thing. We have information in there again, and with the facts and terms. I was going through this thing after Sam got it done, and I was kind of surprised. I didn't realize that we had as many different beef breeds worldwide as there was. I'm a dairy person, so that was kind of surprising. So we can do, then we also have for non-animal exhibits, so it doesn't, so it takes us back to that part. And we do have a spot here where we can list all the judging results. So even if the grandparents and so forth can't be at the fair, they can check to see what their grandkids did, how they placed, and came through the judging. We can also actually post some live streams of shows that take place or of some of the judging. And there's a carnival page. So just kind of, we don't, we just have pictures that were taken. There's our good fair board picture on the merry-go-round. But so that kind of gives you an example of what we intend to go live with, and we'll probably roll this out the week of the fair. Just gives everybody a chance to do some, to look back at last year and to visit our fair, even though they can't, because it's going to be closed to the public. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and hopefully you'll be able to visit it when it gets up and goes live.
Okay, sounds
Anybody have
good.
any questions? Anybody have any questions? Okay.
Deborah, I do.
Great.
I want to bring something up that came up at the board meeting this month. And the question came up more around the meat auction, I believe it was, and how would that take place?
Okay, right now we are looking at not having the meat or the auction. That's our one option. Another option is to hold it all online. Currently, what we've asked the kids to do and start looking at, and actually to understand that piece of it, our Meat Animal Project is chartered through 4-H, so it's more of a 4-H event, even though we give them the venue and it's held at the fair and it's connected with the fair. But the meat animal, there is an actual 4-H and FFA Meat Animal Committee that actually runs that piece of it for the fair. And because they're chartered through 4-H, they also have to follow those 4-H rules and regs that right now say there's nothing that they can get together and do until the end of June at least. So we don't know what July is going to look like. However, we could take that over as a fair from them. We've got a couple options. One is the online auction to have for the kids. Well, and I'm sure you're all familiar with online auctions like Lee Auction Service has. The other option would be that each of the kids would make their own arrangements by contacting buyers from previous years and people that they know and sell their animals privately. And then we wouldn't run that through, and likewise they wouldn't be paying a commission this year or anything of that in that matter. I do know from a couple families that they already have their animals sold just as a backup plan. They're taking a step ahead and they've contacted buyers that have bought from them before, and one's a family of 3 and they have all 3 of their steers sold already if they don't go through an online auction. We've worked with the meat processors, and they have the time set aside for us, because right now, even if you call like Springbrook, or I think it's Springbrook, that's out till like September, October before you can even take an animal there. But because we make these arrangements so far in advance, they are holding that time and they'll be able to take those animals during that week. So that's what the plan is right now. So hopefully that answers your question, Tim.
It does,
It's
thank
going to be
you.
a different lesson for, yeah, it'll be a different, it's just like farming, you know, it's the unknown part, and you don't always get that big check when you sell your animals. And this is going to be a classic lesson about how you have to try to do this on your own, and you might not get $8 a pound for your animal. It might be market price. And so it can be a hard lesson for some of these kids, but it's all part of the education piece.
Okay, thank you, Deb. Any other questions for Deb or? Okay. If not, we'll go on to 5B, Facilities and Parks Division. Scott?
So we've had a turnover in employees in the facility department. Beginning of May, hired on May 4th, hired Kevin Brathel and Brady Burgraff as facility workers. They are residing or stationed at Community Services Building currently. So they're taking care of any stuff in that building, assisting Greg Broadlock as a facility technician there. They are also handling repairs for the parks. They're doing lawn mowing at CSB and Rec Park. And then May 11th, hired Jacob Von Tisch. He is at the Judicial Center as a facility worker, assisting Jay Mylan, facility technician there. And then May 18th, we started 2 seasonal workers to mow the grass at the parks and help out wherever else I need them to. We have Caleb Miller and Zach DeMars that are working for us for the summer. We moved Josh Delaney from a facility worker position at the Judicial Center over to the Neighbors of Dunn County as a facility technician to replace Bill Harmon, who retired on the 12th of May. As far as projects go, we moving along on the blacksmith shop project, turning that into our heated shop to work on our equipment. We had a new concrete floor put in. The old one was in pretty poor shape. We got this one put in, had the work done by the guys over at the highway shop. Other than that, the other projects that we've been having are the COVID-19 projects with placing hand sanitizer in areas and also putting up plexiglass in areas to protect reception areas. It's an ongoing thing. We're looking at also getting the courtrooms up and going. Judge Smelcher would like to get the courts back in session June 8th. So we need to put up plexiglass around the witness stand so that the witnesses can get up there and talk freely without having a mask. So we got a plan together with that. Basically, it's been the COVID projects.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions for Scott? Okay, if not, we'll move on to item number 6, consideration for actions to be taken by the committee. 6A, approval for placement of Veterans Memorial. Who wants to talk to that? Greg or Scott? Who wants to talk to it?
Can you hear me okay?
No.
This is Bob Colson. I'm on the phone. Greg,
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I just had to disconnect. So I think in your packet, you should all see the design that we're putting forward for approval for the location of the Eternal Flame. And based upon the upcoming parking lot project, as you can see, the one of the main points of this location, it's designed for the positive line of sight. And as you look at, as the traffic for the inlet and the traffic on the outlet, the sight lines all focus directly onto the memorial that'll we're proposing to be placed right there. The other point that I'd like to make is the design does fit into the current parking lot plan, as well as the longer term plan for the campus that's everybody's working on. So the next thing I'd like to point out is we're proposing no more than 800 square feet. We don't have the specifics exactly on the design, but we do know that there'll be no more than 800 square feet that would be needed. The other point I'd like to make is that it is designed for accessibility to ensure that we have the ability for anyone that uses a wheelchair, walker, to have free access to go all the way around the monument. And also to highlight that they'll be proposing three flags to be placed there, as well as the drainage of the proposed site will all drain towards the parking lot. All 5 branches of the service will be represented at this site. And the CSB building is the backdrop, and we do have visual screens to ensure that the focus would be on that monument, and also ensuring that it fits into the scope of what the previous Eternal Flame site was, so it matches up nicely with the building. Is there any questions about the proposed site that we're bringing to the committee this evening?
I did not actually have a picture or layout what you just described in my packet. So
Yeah, I didn't either.
Neither did I.
Okay.
And that makes it more difficult to make a decision then if you don't have the visual.
Right.
Mr. Colson, would you by chance be near a screen to share the visual? I know I'm putting you on site, or Scott Nobifeld, please.
I can't, Greg. I have a paper copy, but I'm at a screen without a camera. There may be. Let me see if I can find it in my email. I don't know if I can share. I mean, Scott, do you have it on the email that you could bring it up?
I can check and see if I can bring it up here.
Yeah, I apologize. I understood that the proposed location was in the packet, so hopefully we can get the visual for you to understand the particular location.
Just a question while we're waiting. I think when we discussed this back 3-4 months ago, we were talking about the possibility of substituting an electric flame instead of a gas flame. Did that go anyplace at all, or?
That's under consideration. We haven't finalized any of the design on that.
Oh, okay, good.
But thanks,
Okay.
Scott.
Yep. Got it.
And I'll just quick highlight as that is being shared, the new entrance and exit for the CSB, and as you can see, the 800 square foot location that we're looking for the site is directly to the north as you're entering the CSB. And those sight lines, as I'd identified, are marked on this proposed location. And then also we have the visual blocks that are noted on there just to ensure that the focus stays on the memorial that'll be there.
So as you're looking at this picture, right now the traffic enters the parking lot from the bottom right side. That will be redesigned, and the traffic will come in to the parking lot on the bottom left side, right next to the existing sidewalk that extends to the west of the building. So if you came out of the front doors of the building and walked to the right side as you're coming out, or to the west, you would walk down the sidewalk, and right off of the end of the sidewalk would be where the Veterans Memorial is proposed to be placed. Does that make sense to everyone?
And if I could, the larger circle, at the axis of all those intersecting lines, those sight lines, that larger circle would be up to 800 square feet, and the asterisk in the middle would be the actual monument for the veterans, and that was what people would see, would be whatever is designed and constructed as that memorial, and as Greg said, it may be a gas flame, it may be electric flame, but that's where the actual memorial would be, right at that asterisk.
Okay, does anybody have any questions as far as what's being shown before us here? And I guess the one question I have is the flow pattern in and out of the parking lot is going to change because why?
I'm going to have to defer. Yeah, I'm going to have to defer to somebody else on that answer.
Yeah.
John, you got this one?
Yeah, I got this one. Let me
We're reconfiguring the entrance to the south parking lot to correspond with the new frontage road. So we're going to shift it to the north to line up with the frontage road. And then it's going to come neck into the parking lot on the northwest corner of the existing front parking lot.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions as far as layout or what's been explained here this evening? If not, do I hear a motion to approve the proposed placement for the memorial?
Ask what the cost of this was?
Currently, right now, we the only cost estimates that we have is for gas line. We haven't put together the final cost. The direction I've received from County Manager Paul Miller is first get the location, then my responsibility is to go out and get the funding for the proposed memorial there. And that would come. I have right now tentatively $4,000 committed from two organizations, and then the other service organizations have committed funds. So at this point, we can't put a dollar amount. Would expect in the future to come back with a more finalized project to give updates to the facilities committee and the cost estimate. But the expectation is that there'll be zero cost to the county for this project.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
You're saying that memorial is gonna have a road running between the building and the memorial?
No.
No? Okay. So that plan that you showed us is pretty much accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It is a scale drawing of what's proposed for the entrance, the new entrance, and for the new parking lot.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I just thought you said that the road had to be changed or something like that.
Well, what that was, Ron, that was in a, because I asked why the entrance into the parking lot was changed from where it is now to the new one. And then it was explained because of the, it will line up with the service road better. So that's why they're changing the entrance from where you see now, because before it was way over on the right-hand side.
Yes, I understand. I couldn't visualize it at the moment.
Yep. Yeah.
But I do now.
Okay, good. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the placement for the Veterans Memorial as presented this evening?
I'll make a motion.
A motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, a motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Okay.
Can
Okay,
I interrupt?
Yes.
I've got a question on that sketch that we just had of the parking lot. Scott, could you bring that up again, please?
Sure.
And could you scroll it down so I can see the top part of it a little bit better?
Sure. That didn't work.
You thought you could.
I thought I could. Hold on. I'm getting there.
Okay.
Let me-
Yeah, I can see it. That's
Okay.
good.
Okay.
On the right-hand side towards the top,
Yeah.
it looks like there's a curb and gutter running out into the parking stalls for a light post. Yes, right?
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
Yes.
Why?
Is that has been changed, hasn't it, John?
Yes.
Good.
Yep.
Well, I didn't want to lose parking stalls like we did over at the neighbors.
No, we're gonna get new light bases, so those are all gonna be moved to the exterior of their parking lot.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, then we'll move on to item 6B, Champney Park parking enforcement. Scott, would you want to address that?
Yes. If you're all familiar with Champney Park, right by Tainter Lake on the, I guess it'd be on the east side of Tainter Lake. There are houses that are between on the right side of the road as you're driving past the park. The park is on the left. Houses aren't on the right. They're on the frontage of the lake. These people that live in these houses have taken over much of the park as their own parking area. In the wintertime, they've been plowing off the road, making parking spots for themselves. They're not parking in a parallel parking to the road in a single file. Their cars are parked perpendicular to the road. And in the summertime, it's their vehicles, their trailers, their motorhomes. One recently went past there. One guy had his pontoon trailer was probably about 50 feet off the road underneath some pine trees. Instead of parking their vehicles on their own property, on their own grass, they are parking in the park and I guess making it look bad as they're destroying some of the grass that comes out to the road. So I guess this has been going on for many years. I wanted to bring it up to the facilities committee to get a recommendation on where to go with this. What we would do to kind of curb this from people doing all that.
We don't have any, we don't have a parking lot there for that park, do we?
There is a small parking area that has signage for boats and trailers. From, you know, there is a boat landing there, but it's really too shallow to even launch a boat anymore. So there's that spot. Otherwise, people visiting the park would just pull off of the road, you know, as onto the basically the shoulder of the road and park along there.
Okay.
Scott, they're parking along the road. Is that what they're doing?
No, they are not. They're parking perpendicular to the road.
But off the road.
But they're off the road, yes.
Yeah, but
they're not parking parallel to the road like you would on a city street.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
to do a parallel park.
Mm-hmm.
They're not doing that. They're parking perpendicular to the road.
On the park side of the road?
Yes, on the park side of the road.
Could you put up no parking signs?
That would be a possibility.
You know, it might help. I don't know.
Well, you got to have parking for the people that use the park.
Oh, so they're taking up that space.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say the cheapest thing would be to say park is closed after a certain time, put signage and no parking after that time, and then ask the sheriff's department to ticket them. It's either that or put a parking lot in and a guardrail, but you know, I mean, something to stop them.
Yeah.
It's been happening for years. If you remember going on a park tour, there's always been boats, pontoon trailers, cars, trucks, campers, you name it. They're parked on the park there on that land. They kind of take it over.
Do they almost have squatters?
East end there, so.
I was wondering.
I totally understand. I used to ask that same question. Nobody seems to want to push it.
And it's a funny thing you bring up about the sheriff's department. Here's a recent picture on my phone. If you can see it. A sheriff's deputy has moved into one of the houses and has his squad parked in the park.
Do you suppose that we should have corporate counsel send a letter to the landowners around there who are probably the ones that are parking there and explaining that that is not a public parking area? Because as different people have moved in and bought residences, maybe they're not even aware of it, or as the case may be, their predecessors did it, so they just kept on doing it. What do you think about that?
I kind of like that idea. Let everyone know that they can't park in the park, and they can't park perpendicular to the road, and they gotta follow at least parking rules. And then you can always go with a 2 or a 4 hour parking limit if you want to eliminate overnight parking by the residents, but that could be step 2.
We could have Badger State Industries print us up a no parking sign or parking only during park hours.
Well, maybe we should do a combination of both. Have corporate counsel send out letters to the landowners and get the no parking signs installed, and then see what goes. And if we have to go to the next level of action, we'll just have to do it then. Go ahead, Mike.
Don't you want to allow the people visiting the park to be able to park there during the day?
Oh, definitely.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yep.
So the no parking would be after park hours, later. I don't know what time frame we'd have to put there, but I think we definitely need to send a letter to the residents of the landowners around that area and explaining the situation. So if that's a consensus, I can get a hold of corporate counsel and have them send out a letter. What are your thoughts?
I'd try that first.
Okay.
Sounds pretty good.
Okay, I will get a hold of corporate counsel and we will, he'll draft a letter and we'll get it sent out, and we'll see what the response is by the residents of the area. Okay, next item C, 6C, recommendation that Red Cedar Racing be postponed. We have already addressed that issue. Item number 7, consideration of reports, resolutions, or ordinances to be recommended to Denton County Board by the Facilities Committee. There are none. So brings us up to adjournment, unless there are any other comments by any of the board members.
I have a question, Mr. Chair, to John, directed to John. Has there been any progress on the solar panels for the transit building?
Dolly has been filling out some grant paperwork. It sounds like she's going to put some in her capital improvement plan. But as far as working with Eagle Point, I haven't heard anything from Dave Flew.
Well, this in the minutes last time it said you were working with a grant from Excel for the transit building specifically.
Yes, she's working on that.
She's working on that. Okay.
Yes, correct.
Okay, good. Okay, thanks.
Any other comments? Okay, if not, then the next meeting will be on June 9th at 6:30. So we'll see you then. Have a good evening and thank you for your attendance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, Krista.
You're welcome.